Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Mindworx Zoom. We're coming to you every Wednesday. We're trying to put something in here where we really focus on what we call the three principles. The idea of a man, Sydney Banks, who focused on the idea of mind, thought, and consciousness. And if you are aware of the three principles, it can really shape the way that you live your life. And it has had a profound impact on our lives. It's been a gift for us. We've taught a class now for around 7 or 8 years. And we want to try and give this to you during this very difficult time of the coronavirus. I'm Ben. I'm a teacher here in West Des Moines. I am a golf coach, and I use three principles really in every aspect of my life, but especially when things get difficult. I'm able to use the three principles to put things in perspective and change the way that I look at my life.
And I'm Melissa. I'm a mother of two. I am a 7th grade language arts teacher in our district, and I'm currently homeschooling 6 kids and learning how to live in a new reality just like everybody else.
And again, I'm Mitch, high school principal in West Des Moines as well, and again started teaching this class several years ago, and truly enjoy it. I have 2 daughters, and I don't know, this has been just a crazy time. I'm right now, as we speak, when this broadcasts, I'll be 1 day away from a new location. So we've all spent a little time talking about our weeks and our Mindworx minutes, and so today I think we're going to try to bring some more definition to when we talk about mind, thought, and consciousness. It seems like we spend a lot of time, and this is true of every time we teach a class. We talk about thought a lot. And then consciousness is the one that, to be honest, it's probably the most challenging. So I think we're going to try to help define that a little bit here today, through the lens of a pandemic.
So I'm raising my hand because I actually took the 3 principles class from Mitch and Ben, and I actually took 2 different classes from them, the introductory class and then the applications class. And it really has transformed the way that I've been thinking. But today, when we were kind of brainstorming what we wanted to talk about during this Mindworx Zoom session, Ben and Mitch brought up the fact that they wanted to focus on consciousness. And at first I was like, oh, okay. But then I started panicking a little bit about it during the day and started thinking about, what am I going to talk about? Because I don't necessarily completely understand consciousness. And so my first inclination was to Google it and to go back to some of Sydney Banks' teachings. But I feel like there are probably a lot of people who are in the same situation as I am. So if we can kind of define what consciousness is for me.
Yeah. Well, and thanks, Melissa, because I think you're being honest. And I think that's the lens too, that these are tough concepts. They're not easy. And I'm going to define it. Remember what we define here. Remember, we talk about this all the time. Like this isn't our work. This is what we're translating even through our world. But if we were in a class, and I'm even thinking about right now, we're in a Zoom. Okay. So there will be hundreds, if not thousands of people that watch this Zoom. Okay.
Million.
Yeah. Now, I love millions, right?
Right.
Consciousness for me is how each of those millions of people out there, it's going to be their personal reaction to what they're seeing. And how I like to describe this, even when we're sitting in a class, because usually there's 15 to 20 people in the class, is that we are all in the same space. We are in the same, usually comfortable chairs. We're in the same lighting environment. There's a lot of the environmental things that are identical. However, what's not identical is how each and every person in the room is experiencing the moment. And I try to give analogies, and I try to talk about, the first person that's to my left might have had an awful day at work, might have had a student that they had to discipline, or might have been something just really traumatic that happened at work, and all they can do is think about what happened that afternoon. And so their experience isn't really all that present with us. And it's tainted by this negative thing that happened. The next person sitting next to that person might have had a tremendously beautiful day. Maybe they didn't even have to teach that day. They got a chance to take a nap all day and came to the class totally relaxed and they are just there, you know? So for me, it's taking every individual person's story. Consciousness is how you experience anything, if you will. And we would argue, and Ben, I'm going to let you take this next, is that your thinking is absolutely what experience or what influences your consciousness of your actual experience of the event. So I try to define it that way, if that helps.
So you're saying, I'm just trying to summarize this, is that it's kind of like perspective, and we talked about this earlier, but that perspective is shaped by your background and your experience and maybe the family that you grew up in, things like that.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time talking about belief systems, which we'll probably get into at some point in time too. But yes, your conscious experience of life is going to be shaped by all the things that you just talked about there, Melissa.
Okay.
Ben, what about you? How do you take?
Share your wisdom.
Well, you know, it's funny. I'm sitting in my study, and across from me, I have all 5 of my books. And one of those books is "Don't Sweat the Small Stuff" by Richard Carlson, where, you know, it's so 3P related without really acknowledging the 3 principles. But I remember there's this part in there about how your thinking can spiral out of control. And he uses the example of this guy who's married, and he wakes up and he's just not feeling right. And one thought about his life, you know, God, I just don't like my job. And then he's driving to work. I don't like the traffic. And one thing leads to another. And without really being aware of his thinking, he's been put into this very negative space. And sometimes when we lose sight of our thinking, and when we teach our class, we actually use the research that shows that without even knowing it, we think somewhere between 60 and 100 thoughts, or 60 and 100,000 thoughts in a day. And sometimes our thinking will just run away from us. And when it runs away from us, we might find later on that we are in a particular mood, and that originates from a thought. So in my Mindworx Minute today, you know, I was talking about how my parents are coming back from California. They're 79. They're very susceptible to the coronavirus. I'll go pick them up at the airport. I have to wear a mask. Then I start thinking about the luggage. Then I start thinking about how I can't go into their house. Then I start thinking about all of these different things, and it has run away from me. And when we talk about consciousness, it's being aware of your thinking, and it's like, dude, stop. You just have to pick them up on Tuesday. Do what you need to do for Tuesday. Wear a mask. Don't embrace them. But don't overthink it. And to be honest with you, like, you know, I was actually feeling this sense of sadness, right? Because I haven't seen my parents for months, and I can't embrace them. And I started feeling sad. But if you reshape that thought, you know what? They're coming home. And I know that they're going to feel a sense of relief that, you know, I can go get groceries for them. They don't have to worry about groceries. And because they'll feel that relief, it'll give you a sense of relief. And depending on how you want to choose the thought that you're going to have based on awareness, you can reshape your thinking about an event or an individual. And that's where I think awareness, consciousness, is just so important. Sometimes we go off, you know, in our thinking, and before we know it, we're lost. We're in a very, very different place than where we should be.
Yeah, and I would say prior to taking the class, Ben, for myself, I would describe my consciousness as more unaware of it. It just existed, and most of us don't take the time to really analyze why I feel the way I feel, why I do what I do, and really where that comes from. And Sid will tell you that it all transpires from the internal thoughts that go through your mind and what you give energy to. So consciousness is just the day-to-day. It's how we experience life. And if you don't have a high practice, I guess, of looking at your thinking, you do tend to just go through life. You do the next thing, Melissa, on the schedule. You do, you know, and you don't really put a lot of time of analyzing that. You go through life. And so this is another thing that comes to my mind, is that this concept of, we always say that some people have an awakening. And that's what it is. For me, it was just that awakening of looking at it going, wow, I'm experiencing whatever event completely and totally through my mind and what thoughts I have. And so politics, if you don't like Trump and somebody says something about Trump, your consciousness immediately goes, I don't like that person. They're negative. They're bad. You just add all these different things in. If that's your belief, that's my consciousness. Somebody else that's a Trump supporter goes, yep, he's my guy. Love him. Love what he does. He goes against the system. He's not so again, just simple examples of consciousness of we all live our separate worlds. It's crazy that there's that much thinking, that much difference amongst us as humans, but that's what makes us human. It's pretty powerful.
One of the first assignments that we do in class is when people drive home that night, and we ask them to think about how they got home. And oftentimes, when you're driving, you don't know how you get from point A to point B because you're lost in thought. And I just think it's a great reminder that, be very present about where you are and what you're doing and where you're going, and be very aware of your thoughts. And if you're thinking negatively about a situation, you can change it for the positive. Our grocery store here at Hy-Vee, it's about 50-50 right now. The people that are wearing masks, the people that are keeping their social distance, the people that are taking this very serious or not serious enough. And I think that people's thinking is that they are right. Whatever it is, they are right in their thinking.
Right.
Instead of trying to understand what that person's story is. There's a reason why somebody is wearing masks and gloves and so on and so forth based on what they have heard and what they have seen. And there's a reason why somebody maybe isn't taking it serious enough. But before we tend to judge, we should take a step back and be aware of our thinking and have a sense of empathy. Why is somebody thinking the way that they're doing and behaving the way that they're behaving?
Okay, Melissa, let's just say we had 4 minutes left in this Zoom. If you had to try to summarize, what are you hearing right now?
I think that what I'm hearing is that it's being aware of your thoughts and your feelings and why you are feeling that way. And when I was trying to research consciousness today so that I would sound like I knew what I was talking about, I was feeling really anxious. And I was trying to analyze my feelings and thinking about why I was feeling that way. And I think it was because of the to-do list that I had made myself. It was very long. I showed Ben my to-do list. It was very long. And it was impossible. There's no way that I could get all of those things done in one day. And I realized that I had created my own anxiety, and my feelings came from an expectation that I had of myself that wasn't realistic. And I decided that I needed to change my to-do list to include things like learning how to meditate or making sure that I read for 30 minutes a day, which I enjoy doing, which I haven't had time to do because my to-do list has been so long. So I think that what I'm learning from you right now and from thinking about consciousness today in preparation for this is that it's analyzing why you're feeling a certain way and what the root of those feelings are. And sometimes it's our background or our experiences, but sometimes as I'm thinking about this, it's ourselves and the expectations that we put on ourselves. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think
as correct as you need it to be, right?
Okay.
Right. We talk all the time about how Star Wars is a movie about the three principles. And when Obi-Wan says to Luke, search your feelings, search your feelings. Mm-hmm. Well, that originates with a thought. And if you're aware of your thinking, if you're in a negative place, it's originating with a thought. Change the thought. Every dark cloud has a silver lining. And if you're willing to see it, you're always going to find it. When you can focus on that, that's just going to change the way that you feel.
Yep. All right, guys, that's probably going to bring us to the end of this particular Zoomcast at this point in time. So, my hope is too, as people start, and we have a pretty good viewership right now. People have the time. So thank you for everybody that's watched. And we also really appreciate people that pass our information on or just continue to go, move it forward. Always available too. Certainly not in the pandemic form right now, but we would love to even do a Zoom if you've got a book club, if you've got a group, if you've got a church group or something like that, and you just want to have this kind of dialogue to see if we can improve your life, we would love to do that. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. Our contact information is on our website. And as always, you three, this is fun. It's been enjoyable. And thank you for all of your time today.
Thank you both.
Thank you for enlightening me.
We'll see. I don't know if we did that or not, Melissa, or not, but you know what?
No, you did.
We have fun trying. So, all right, until next time, mindworksforme.com. Check us out and pass this video along. So thanks, guys. Have a great night.